The friend of my wife flirted with me and then set me up in front of her, which is why we broke up. Alright, so here's the story. I'm Alex, 42 years old. My wife, Sarah, and I have been together for 10 years, married for the last 5. On paper, we're the perfect couple. We met through mutual friends, bonded over our love for hiking and good food, and things moved pretty quickly from there. But there's one thing that's been a constant thorn in my side throughout our relationship: Sarah's best friend, Jennifer. From the first day I met Jennifer, she had this presence. You know the type: loud, opinionated, and so sure of herself it was almost suffocating. She was always in Sarah's ear, giving advice nobody asked for and inserting herself into situations she didn't belong in. At first, I tried to brush it off. I told myself, she's just protective of Sarah. That's a good thing, right? But as the years went on, I realized Jennifer wasn't just protective, she was manipulative. Things really started to spiral when Sarah and I got engaged. That should have been one of the happiest times of our lives. Instead, it turned into a circus, with Jennifer as the ringleader. It started with little comments here and there. Are you sure this venue is the best choice? It's kind of basic. Or, do you really think that menu represents who you are as a couple? I'd smile politely, bite my tongue, and tell myself it wasn't worth starting a fight over. Sarah would nod along, acting like Jennifer was some kind of wedding guru. But then it escalated. Jennifer started demanding things. She wanted a special speech at our wedding, not just as a bridesmaid, but as Sarah's soulmate. Her words, not mine. I've been there for her through everything, Alex. I'm practically family, she said one night, her voice dripping with self-importance. Sarah didn't even flinch. She just nodded and said, "Of course, Jen. That's a great idea." Meanwhile, I was sitting there like, "Excuse me? What about me? This is our wedding, not Jennifer's showcase." When I brought it up to Sarah later, she brushed it off. "Babe, it's just a speech. It's not a big deal." Not a big deal? Jennifer was hijacking our wedding, and Sarah couldn't, or wouldn't, see it. The closer we got to the wedding, the worse it got. Jennifer criticized the florist I'd picked, saying the arrangements were too masculine, whatever that means. She complained about the music, the cake, even the color of the napkins. And every time, Sarah sided with her. I felt like I was planning a wedding with 2 women, and I was the odd man out. One night, about a month before the big day, Jennifer crossed a line I couldn't ignore. We were all at dinner, discussing the seating chart, when she casually suggested that we move my mom to a less visible table because, and I quote, "she's not really photogenic, and the photos are forever, you know?" My jaw hit the floor. I looked at Sarah, expecting her to jump to my mom's defense, but she just shrugged and said, "Well, maybe Jen has a point." That was it. I slammed my fork down, barely holding back my anger. No, Jennifer does not have a point. My mom has every right to sit front and center at her son's wedding, and if you have a problem with that, you can stay home. The table went silent. Jennifer looked shocked, like nobody had ever dared to stand up to her before. Sarah, on the other hand, looked embarrassed. Not at Jennifer, but at me, like I was the one causing a scene. After dinner, Sarah and I had a massive fight. I told her I was tired of Jennifer meddling in our lives, and that she needed to start putting our relationship first. She accused me of being jealous of her friendship with Jennifer. She's been my best friend since college, Alex. She knows me better than anyone. Why can't you just get along with her? Because she's toxic, Sarah. I shot back. She doesn't care about you. She cares about controlling you. And you're letting her. We didn't speak for 2 days after that. When we finally did, Sarah agreed to set some boundaries with Jennifer. But, unsurprisingly, that didn't last long. Jennifer had a way of wriggling her way back in, no matter how many times Sarah promised to rein her in. On our wedding day, Jennifer gave her speech. It wasn't just a speech, it was a performance. She went on and on about how she'd been there for Sarah through every heartbreak, every challenge, and how she was the reason Sarah had become the amazing woman she was today. She barely mentioned me except to say, "I guess Alex is okay too." The guests laughed, but I was fuming. After the wedding, I tried to let it go. I told myself Jennifer would fade into the background once we settled into married life. But she didn't. She was always there, calling Sarah, showing up unannounced, and dragging her into drama that had nothing to do with us. And every time I tried to bring it up, Sarah accused me of being insecure or controlling. So, after the wedding, I tried to tell myself things would calm down. I thought maybe Jennifer would finally take a step back now that Sarah and I were officially married. I mean, surely she'd realize it was time to let us live our lives without her constant interference, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. Jennifer became even more intrusive. She showed up at our house several times a week, always unannounced. She acted like it was her second home, strolling in with her oversized purse and an iced coffee, talking a mile a minute about her latest drama or some amazing new idea she had for Sarah and me. It didn't matter if I was busy working, cooking, or trying to relax. Jennifer was there, like some unshakable force of nature. At first, it was just little things. She'd make comments about our furniture. "This couch is so boring. You need something with color." Or criticize our dinners. "Ugh, pasta again? You two need to branch out." Then she started dictating where we should eat out, dragging us to overpriced restaurants where she'd inevitably complain about the service or the menu. But the worst part? Sarah always went along with it. Every single time. It wasn't just me noticing either. Our neighbors started raising their eyebrows at how often Jennifer's car was parked in our driveway. One of them, Mrs. Thompson, a sweet older woman who lived next door, even joked, "You've got a roommate you didn't tell us about?" I laughed awkwardly, but inside, I was seething. Then came the breaking point. Jennifer moved in with us. Apparently, she'd broken up with her boyfriend, Kyle, a guy I barely knew but already felt sorry for, and had nowhere else to go. Sarah didn't even consult me before inviting her to stay. One day, I came home from work, and there was Jennifer, sitting on my couch in yoga pants, eating chips straight out of the bag like she owned the place. "Oh, hey, Alex," she said, like nothing was out of the ordinary. "Sarah said I could crash here for a while. Isn't she the best?" I was stunned. "A while?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "How long is a while?" Jennifer waved me off like it was a silly question. "Just until I figure things out. Kyle was such a jerk, you know? I need time to, heal and reset." Sarah chimed in from the kitchen. "It won't be long, babe. Jen's just going through a rough patch." Rough patch my ass. Jennifer moving in turned our home into a war zone. She took over the guest room, which wasn't a problem at first, until her stuff started spilling into the rest of the house. Makeup on the bathroom counter, her clothes on the living room floor, random boxes stacked in the hallway. It was like living in a storage unit. And the noise? Oh my God, the noise. Jennifer was on the phone constantly, talking so loudly it felt like she was shouting into a megaphone. The worst part? She didn't respect boundaries. At all. She started using my things without asking. One day, I came home to find her wearing one of my sweatshirts. "Oh, this?" she said when I confronted her. "It was just lying around, and I was cold." "Don't be such a grump." Another time, she borrowed my laptop to check her email and left it covered in crumbs and sticky fingerprints. I wanted to scream. I tried to talk to Sarah about it, but every conversation ended the same way, with her defending Jennifer. "She's my best friend, Alex. She needs our support right now. Can't you just be a little more understanding?" Understanding? Jennifer was treating our house like a crash pad, and I was supposed to be understanding? One night, I'd had enough. Jennifer had thrown a mini tantrum because I dared to ask her to clean up the kitchen after making a smoothie that exploded all over the counter. "Why are you always picking on me?" she whined. "I'm already stressed out, and now I have to deal with this?" That night, after she stomped off to her room, I sat Sarah down. "This has to stop," I said, my voice firm. "Jennifer is taking over our lives. She's disrespectful, she's messy, and frankly, I don't want her here anymore." Sarah sighed, looking genuinely torn. "I know she can be a lot, Alex, but she's going through so much right now. She doesn't have anyone else. She doesn't have anyone else because she drives everyone away." I snapped. "You're enabling her, Sarah. She's not going to grow or change if you keep letting her walk all over us." For a moment, I thought I'd gotten through to her. But then she said, "I'll talk to her, okay? I'll set some boundaries." Boundaries. Right. The next day, Jennifer was still there, still making herself at home, and Sarah was acting like our conversation had never happened. It was like banging my head against a brick wall. Things hit a new low when Jennifer decided to redecorate. Without asking, I came home to find new throw pillows on the couch, a hideous neon rug in the living room, and, get this, she'd rearranged the kitchen cabinets because she thought my system didn't make sense. "You'll thank me later," she said with a smug smile. I was speechless. That night, I lost it. I told Sarah, "If Jennifer doesn't move out by the end of the month, I will." Sarah stared at me, shocked. "You don't mean that." "I do," I said, my voice shaking. "This isn't a marriage anymore, Sarah. It's me, you, and Jennifer. And I didn't sign up for this." For the first time, Sarah seemed to realize how serious I was. She promised to talk to Jennifer, to set real boundaries this time. But deep down, I knew it wouldn't make a difference. Jennifer wasn't going anywhere, not until Sarah made her. And that, I realized, was the real problem. Jennifer wasn't the one ruining our marriage. Sarah was, by letting her. It's hard to pinpoint exactly when my marriage went from strained to irreparable, but if I had to pick a single moment, it was when Jennifer decided to unleash her final act of destruction. At that point, I was already exhausted from months of living under the same roof with her. The tension between Sarah and me was at an all-time high, and every attempt to fix things felt like trying to bail water out of a sinking ship with a teaspoon. But I still wasn't ready for what came next. It all started on an ordinary Thursday. I'd just gotten home from work and was standing in the kitchen, scrolling through my phone, when Sarah stormed in, her face red and her fists clenched. She looked furious. No, beyond furious. I had no idea what I'd done, but it was clear something was seriously wrong. "Care to explain this, Alex?" she snapped, tossing her phone onto the counter in front of me. I stared at it, confused. On the screen was a blurry photo of what looked like a man and a woman sitting in a car. The man's face was turned away, but the woman was leaning over, kissing him on the cheek. "What is this?" I asked, genuinely baffled. "Don't play dumb," Sarah spat. "Jennifer saw you in the parking lot of the supermarket this afternoon. She saw you with her own eyes, Alex. You were kissing another woman." I blinked, completely blindsided. "Wait, what? Sarah, that's not me. I wasn't even at the supermarket today." "Don't lie to me," she yelled, her voice cracking. "Jennifer said she followed you into the parking lot. She said she recognized your car and saw you with some brunette in the passenger seat. She even sent me this picture as proof." I picked up the phone, studying the photo again. It was grainy and unclear, taken from an awkward angle through a windshield. The man was wearing a jacket that looked vaguely like one I owned. But that was it. "Sarah, this could be anyone," I said, trying to stay calm. "You can't even see the guy's face. And besides, I've been at work all day. If you don't believe me, call my boss." But she wasn't hearing it. "So now you're calling Jennifer a liar? She has no reason to make this up, Alex. She's been looking out for me since day one, and she wouldn't tell me this if it weren't true." That hit a nerve. "Looking out for you?" I snapped. "Sarah, she's been sabotaging our marriage from the start. This is exactly what she wants, to drive a wedge between us, and you're letting her." Sarah shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "No, Alex. The only one who's been sabotaging our marriage is you. I can't believe I ever trusted you." I stood there, stunned. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After everything we'd been through, Sarah was taking Jennifer's word over mine, without even giving me a chance to prove my innocence. It felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. The next few days were a blur of arguments, tears, and icy silences. I tried everything I could think of to convince Sarah that Jennifer was lying. I showed her timestamps from my phone proving I'd been at work. I even offered to track down security footage from the parking lot to prove I hadn't been there. But none of it mattered. Jennifer had already poisoned her mind, and there was no undoing the damage. Things came to a head about a week later. I came home from work to find Sarah sitting at the kitchen table, a stack of papers in front of her. My heart sank. "What's this?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. "Divorce papers," she said, her voice flat. "I've made up my mind, Alex. I can't do this anymore." I stared at her, my chest tightening. "You're really going to throw away 10 years together over a lie? Over Jennifer?" "This isn't about Jennifer," she said, glaring at me. "It's about trust. And I can't trust you anymore." I wanted to scream, to shake her and make her see how blind she was being. But I knew it wouldn't make a difference. Jennifer had won. She'd finally gotten what she wanted. The weeks that followed were some of the darkest of my life. I moved out of the house, my house, and into a tiny apartment on the other side of town. The divorce process was brutal. Sarah was cold and unyielding, refusing to even entertain the idea of reconciliation. Jennifer, of course, was by her side through the whole thing, playing the role of the supportive best friend while quietly twisting the knife. One day, I ran into Jennifer at the grocery store. She was standing in the produce section, chatting with a cashier like she didn't have a care in the world. When she saw me, she smirked. "Oh, hey Alex. How's single life treating you?" I clenched my fists, fighting the urge to say something I'd regret. "Why?" I asked through gritted teeth. "Why did you do it? Why did you lie to her?" Jennifer tilted her head, pretending to be confused. "Lie? I didn't lie. I told Sarah what I saw. You didn't see anything." I snapped. "You made it up because you couldn't stand seeing us happy." Her smirk widened. "Happy? Please. You were never good enough for Sarah, and deep down, she knew it. I just helped her realize it sooner. I walked away before I did something I couldn't take back. But her words stayed with me, festering like an open wound. She'd taken everything from me. My marriage, my home, my sense of stability, and she wasn't even sorry. It had been 5 months since the divorce was finalized, but the sting hadn't dulled. Every day, I woke up in my tiny apartment, staring at the blank walls and wondering how my life had unraveled so completely. I kept replaying the fights, the accusations, and the look on Sarah's face when she handed me the divorce papers. It was a mixture of anger and heartbreak that I couldn't forget, no matter how hard I tried. Then, one evening, everything changed. I was sitting on my couch, half watching some forgettable show on TV, when my phone buzzed. It was a message from a number I didn't recognize. Normally, I'd ignore something like that, but for some reason, I opened it. Hi, Alex. My name is Lauren. I'm a friend of Jennifer's, or I was. I think you need to know something. Can we talk? At first, I thought it was a prank. Jennifer's friends weren't exactly the type to reach out to me, but something about the tone of the message felt genuine, so I responded. What is this about? A minute later, she replied. It's about Jennifer. She lied to Sarah. I have proof. My heart started racing. I called the number immediately, and Lauren answered on the second ring. She sounded hesitant, almost nervous. I wasn't sure if I should reach out, she said. But after everything Jennifer's done, I can't keep quiet anymore. What are you talking about? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. What proof do you have? Lauren explained that she and Jennifer had been close friends for years, but they'd had a falling out recently over something unrelated. During one of their last conversations, Jennifer had gotten drunk and started bragging about how she'd saved Sarah from me. According to Lauren, Jennifer had confessed to fabricating the story about seeing me with another woman. She'd even gone as far as to show Lauren the text she'd sent Sarah that day, complete with timestamps and edits to make it look convincing. I didn't believe her at first, Lauren said. But then she showed me the messages she sent Sarah, along with the ones she'd written to herself to make it seem real. It was disgusting. She was laughing about it, like it was some kind of game. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Why would she do that? I asked, my voice shaking. Lauren hesitated. Because she wanted you out of the picture. She was jealous of your relationship with Sarah. She told me she thought you were too controlling, and that Sarah would be better off without you. But honestly, I think she just couldn't stand not being the center of attention. The conversation left me reeling. Lauren promised to send me screenshots of the messages Jennifer had shown her, and true to her word, she forwarded them within minutes. As I read through the correspondence, my anger turned to a cold, simmering rage. There it was in black and white. Jennifer bragging about how she'd manipulated Sarah, laughing about how gullible she was, and even mocking me for being too blind to stop her. I knew what I had to do. The next day, I called Sarah. I hadn't spoken to her since the divorce, and the sound of her voice, distant, guarded, stung more than I expected. What do you want, Alex? She asked. I need to show you something, I said. It's important. She sighed. Alex, I don't think. Please, I interrupted. Just give me 10 minutes. That's all I'm asking. Reluctantly, she agreed to meet me at a coffee shop near her office. I showed up early, my hands trembling as I scrolled through the screenshots on my phone, making sure I had everything ready. When Sarah walked in, she looked tired. Her eyes had lost some of their usual spark, and I couldn't help but wonder if she'd been struggling as much as I had. All right, she said, sitting down across from me. What's this about? I handed her my phone without a word. She frowned, scrolling through the messages. At first, her expression was unreadable, but as she kept reading, her face slowly changed, confusion, then disbelief, then horror. Is this? She whispered, looking up at me. It's real, I said. Lauren sent me those. She was friends with Jennifer until recently, and she had no reason to lie. Jennifer admitted everything to her. Sarah stared at the phone, her hands trembling. She made it all up? The parking lot, the photo, everything? Yes, I said. She wanted to destroy our marriage, and she succeeded. For a long moment, Sarah didn't say anything. Then, to my surprise, she started to cry. Not the quiet, composed tears I'd seen from her during our fights, but deep, gut-wrenching sobs that made my chest ache. Oh my God, she said, her voice breaking. Alex, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. I should have listened. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to tell her it wasn't her fault. But another part of me, The part that had spent months drowning in anger and betrayal. Wanted her to feel the full weight of what she'd done. You didn't even give me a chance, I said finally, my voice thick with emotion. You chose Jennifer over me, over us. And now look where we are. I know, she said, wiping her eyes. I know I messed up. I was stupid, and I let her manipulate me. I didn't think she was capable of something like this. Neither had I. But now, the truth was out, and there was no going back. Sarah asked if she could keep the screenshots to confront Jennifer herself. I agreed, though I wasn't sure what good it would do. As far as I was concerned, Jennifer was beyond redemption. I'd spent years trying to expose her toxicity, and it had taken one of her own friends to finally pull back the curtain. Later that night, Sarah called me. I talked to Jennifer, she said. She didn't even deny it. She just said she was protecting me and that I should be grateful. I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. And what did you say? I told her I never wanted to see her again, Sarah said. She's dead to me, Alex. I don't know how to make this right. Neither did I. The damage was done, and while the truth had finally come to light, it didn't erase the pain or the scars. All I knew was that Jennifer's reign of terror was finally over, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. When the truth about Jennifer came out, it was like a bomb detonated in all of our lives. For years, she had thrived on manipulation and control, carefully constructing a facade of loyalty and selflessness while working behind the scenes to dismantle anyone who stood in her way. But her web of lies had finally unraveled, and the fallout was swift and brutal. Word spread quickly among Jennifer's circle of friends. Lauren, the same woman who had provided the evidence that exposed Jennifer's lies, wasted no time sharing what she knew. Screenshots of Jennifer's messages, her drunken confessions, and her callous mockery of Sarah were sent to everyone who had ever been close to her. It didn't take long for Jennifer to become a social pariah. Her closest friends, those who had defended her and supported her over the years, cut ties immediately. I heard through the grapevine that one of them, Rebecca, confronted Jennifer in the middle of a cafe, shouting at her for betraying Sarah and ruining her life. The scene was dramatic enough to make the local gossip circles, and by the end of the day, Jennifer's reputation was in tatters. It wasn't just her friendships that suffered. Jennifer's lies had a ripple effect that reached her professional life as well. She worked as an event planner, a job she had always boasted about as being perfect for her talents. But when her clients and colleagues found out about her behavior, it was over. Who would trust someone with their wedding or corporate event after hearing about how she'd sabotaged mine? Her contracts were canceled, her reputation destroyed. Within a month, she was out of a job. I'd like to say I felt satisfaction watching Jennifer's life fall apart, but the truth was, I mostly felt numb. The damage she'd done to me and Sarah couldn't be undone, no matter how much she suffered. And yet, a small part of me couldn't help but think, she's finally getting what she deserves. As for Sarah, the fallout hit her in a different way. After realizing the extent of Jennifer's deception, she threw herself into apologizing. It started with texts and voicemails, long, emotional messages begging for forgiveness and asking me to meet her so we could talk. At first, I ignored them. I wasn't ready to hear her excuses or her apologies. But Sarah didn't give up. She showed up at my apartment one evening, holding a box of my favorite pastries from a bakery we used to visit together. Alex, she said, her voice trembling, please, just give me 5 minutes. I let her in, mostly out of curiosity. She sat on my couch, her hands clutching the box of pastries like it was a lifeline. I don't even know where to start, she said, her eyes brimming with tears. I messed up, Alex. I let Jennifer manipulate me, and I destroyed the best thing I ever had because I was too blind to see what she was doing. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. For years, I had begged her to see Jennifer for who she really was, to recognize the toxic influence she had on our lives. And now, after everything had fallen apart, she finally understood. But it was too late. I'm sorry, she continued, her voice breaking. I'm so sorry for not trusting you, for not standing by you when you needed me. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I'm asking anyway. Please, Alex, let me make it up to you. Let me prove that I can be the wife you deserve. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that we could go back to the way things were before Jennifer came between us. But as I looked at her, all I could think about was the pain of the past few months. The sleepless nights, the constant knot in my stomach, the betrayal I'd felt when she chose Jennifer over me. I can't, I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. Sarah's face crumpled. Why not? She asked, her voice shaking. We can fix this, Alex. I'll do whatever it takes. Because the trust is gone, I said, my chest tightening. You didn't just believe Jennifer's lies. You didn't even give me the chance to defend myself. You filed for divorce without even hearing me out. How am I supposed to trust you after that? She didn't have an answer. She sat there, silent and heartbroken, as the reality of my words sank in. After a few minutes, she stood up, leaving the box of pastries on the coffee table. I understand, she said quietly, but I'll never stop hoping that one day, you'll change your mind. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Watching her walk out of my apartment felt like ripping open an old wound, but I knew it was the right decision. Some things couldn't be fixed, no matter how much you wanted them to be. In the weeks that followed, Sarah kept trying. She sent me letters, left voicemails, and even reached out to my family, hoping they could convince me to give her another chance. But my answer remained the same. I couldn't go back. Too much had been broken, and no amount of apologies could change that. Jennifer, meanwhile, disappeared from our lives completely. I heard rumors that she'd moved to a different city, hoping for a fresh start where no one knew her name. But I didn't care enough to find out if they were true. As far as I was concerned, she was a ghost. Life didn't magically get better overnight. There were still moments when I felt the weight of everything I'd lost. My marriage, my sense of security, my trust in the people I loved. But there were also moments of hope. Slowly, I started to rebuild, focusing on my career, my friendships, and, most importantly, myself. One day, I found myself at the same coffee shop where Sarah and I had met to discuss Jennifer's lies. As I sat there, sipping my drink and reflecting on everything that had happened, I realized something. I was finally free. Free from Jennifer's manipulation, free from the toxic dynamic that had defined my marriage, and free to start over. And for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. After everything that had happened, the lies, the betrayals, the chaos, I made a decision. I needed to cut every toxic thread from my life. The months following the revelations about Jennifer and the collapse of my marriage had left me raw, but they had also given me clarity. I didn't want to live in the shadow of the past anymore. It was time to move forward. The first step was cutting off contact with both Jennifer and Sarah. I'd already blocked Jennifer on every platform I could think of, but the emotional weight of her presence lingered. I decided to take a symbolic step toward closure. I went through the photos, emails, and messages that tied me to her meddling and deleted them all. It was cathartic, like clearing out cobwebs from a room that hadn't been aired in years. As for Sarah, I wrestled with the decision for weeks. She continued to reach out, sending long, heartfelt messages and even dropping by my apartment a few times. Each visit ended the same way, with her crying and me trying to explain why I couldn't go back. It wasn't that I didn't care for her anymore. It was that the foundation of our relationship had been shattered beyond repair. The person I thought I could count on had proven that trust was a one-way street. Eventually, I told her outright that I needed space to heal, and she reluctantly agreed to stop contacting me. With both of them out of my life, I started to feel a sense of freedom I hadn't experienced in years. At first, it was overwhelming. For so long, my life had revolved around navigating the minefield that was my marriage, constantly trying to balance my love for Sarah with my frustration over Jennifer's interference. Now, that burden was gone. But what was left in its place? I decided to find out. I threw myself into work, taking on new projects and reconnecting with colleagues I drifted apart from during the chaos of my personal life. One of them, Brian, became an unexpected source of support. We'd worked together for years, but I'd always kept things professional. Now, as I opened up about what I'd been through, I found a surprising camaraderie. "Man," Brian said one night over drinks, "I can't believe you put up with that for so long. You're way stronger than I would have been." I laughed, though it felt more like relief than humor. I don't know if it was strength or stupidity. Maybe a little of both. Brian's friendship helped me remember what it felt like to be valued for who I was, not what I could endure. He invited me to join a recreational soccer league he was part of, and though I hadn't played since college, I said yes. It turned out to be one of the best decisions I'd made in years. For the first time in what felt like forever, I was doing something purely for fun. Outside of work and soccer, I started reconnecting with my family. My mom, who had always been quietly supportive, was thrilled to see me prioritizing myself. "I've been praying for this, Alex," she said one Sunday over brunch. "You've been through so much, and I just want to see you happy again." Her words hit me harder than I expected. For years, I'd been so focused on fixing my marriage and fighting off Jennifer's interference that I'd neglected the people who genuinely cared about me. Now, I was determined not to make that mistake again. While I was rebuilding my life, Jennifer's continued to spiral. I heard bits and pieces through mutual acquaintances. She'd lost her job, her social circle had all but evaporated, and she was struggling to stay afloat financially. At one point, she even tried reaching out to Lauren, begging her to help patch things up with Sarah. But Lauren wasn't having it. "She's delusional," Lauren told me during a phone call. "She still thinks she can talk her way out of this. But nobody wants anything to do with her anymore." She burned too many bridges. It was hard to feel pity for Jennifer after everything she'd done, but I didn't feel satisfaction either. Her downfall was a direct result of her actions, and while I wasn't rooting for her, I also didn't waste any energy hoping for her redemption. She was no longer my problem. Sarah's life had taken a different turn. While she hadn't experienced the same social collapse as Jennifer, the divorce and the truth about Jennifer's lies had left her deeply shaken. She reached out to Lauren after I cut ties, trying to make sense of everything. "Sarah's a mess," Lauren told me one day. "She's been talking about how much she regrets not listening to you, how she wishes she could take it all back." I didn't know how to respond. A part of me still cared for Sarah. How could I not, after 10 years together? But every time I thought about her regret, it was overshadowed by the memory of her filing for divorce without giving me the benefit of the doubt. She had chosen Jennifer's word over mine, and that was something I couldn't forget. One afternoon, Sarah sent me a final letter. In it, she apologized again for everything she'd done, acknowledging the pain she'd caused and the mistakes she'd made. She ended the letter with a simple, heartfelt plea. "I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me, even if we can't go back to what we were." I read the letter twice, then set it aside. Forgiveness, I realized, wasn't about absolving her of her actions. It was about freeing myself from the weight of anger and resentment. And for the first time, I felt ready to do that, not for her, but for me. With Jennifer and Sarah both out of my life, I began to feel a sense of clarity I hadn't experienced in years. I took up new hobbies, painting, hiking, even a bit of photography, and found joy in the simple act of rediscovering who I was outside of my marriage. One day, while on a hike with Brian and a few others from the soccer league, I paused at the top of a hill, looking out over the sprawling landscape below. The sun was setting, casting the world in hues of orange and gold. For the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. This is what freedom feels like, I thought, a smile spreading across my face. The road to get there hadn't been easy. It had been filled with heartbreak, betrayal, and hard truths. But standing there, surrounded by new friends and endless possibilities, I realized that the pain had been worth it. I was free, free from manipulation, free from distrust, and free to build a life on my terms. And for the first time in years, I was genuinely excited about what the future might hold.